Is writing a blog still worth it? It seems that the internet is saturated with below average blog content, and Google's new algorithm updates aren't looking too promising either. But a blog is still a hugely underrated marketing strategy that generates millions of dollars each year for my clients by attracting traffic that really does convert. But before you start that blog, make sure you watch this video till the end, where I'm going to be telling you why most businesses fail to start a profitable blog and how you can beat the odds. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Holly. I'm an expert copywriter and I'm the founder of Empowered English. That's the copywriting agency that makes you money. I grew my business to $500,000 in annual revenue in just 3 years, and I did that by writing great blogs that really do make money for my clients. In this series, I'm helping business owners like you leverage your content to create more sales than you know what to do with. So if you're a business owner, a marketing manager, like a CMO, or even an agency, and you'd like to work with us, then check out the link in the description box below. Shoot me across the details of your project and we'll help you get the best bang for your copywriting buck. In the meantime, let's get into it. So unless you've been living under a rock for the last year, you'll probably have noticed how the internet has shifted over the last few months. And the reason is the word on everyone's lips, right? AI tools. And they've been dominated everything. Your blog is no exception. Traditionally, a blog would have been a way to drive traffic via search engine optimization. The idea was that if you would write a blog post that answered a common question that your customers had, your customer would Google the question, click on the blog post, and discover that your product was like the miracle answer that they've been looking for. And it is a great theory in practice. And in my career, I've written quite a few blogs that have gone on to perform exceptionally well in that way, making sales and driving traffic to a couple of pieces of pillar content that outperform all of the rest, like all of the other blogs put together. But nowadays, things are changing, and the number one thing that's changing is Google's search results pages, or the SERPs. Faced with losing traffic to OpenAI, Google have made some drastic changes, and that includes prioritizing no-click search results that give you the answer without having to click through and read the entire blog. So I'm personally kind of looking forward to that. It's great for users looking for an answer, but it's not so great for companies hoping you'll discover a product through their blog. And the result has been that many businesses have actually decided to pivot away from blogs, and they've neglected their blog and started to consider other options away from SEO. They know that their blogs are faced with uncertainty and decline in traffic, and that makes SEO, in their eyes, a bit of a risky investment. And so I've actually seen this myself. I've noticed a decline in small business clients looking for a blog. And I've seen that there's a lot of uncertainty about how and if a blog can generate returns over the long term, especially for smaller businesses who are usually on a tight content budget and they're feeling the pinch all the time. But I'm going to let you into a bit of a secret. My bigger clients are not facing the same problem. They're actually doubling down on their blog strategy. Some of the biggest clients I have a 5-figure monthly blog budget. They're taking this so seriously because they recognize that blogs are changing and opportunities are changing too. So if all of this is true, right, why are those big businesses continuing to invest in their blog when other companies are shying away from that? I have noticed, from my observation, I think there's 3 reasons for this. So firstly, other businesses are generating what can only be described as crap output. It's not super rare, right, for small businesses just to completely rely on tools like ChatGPT to generate blogs, meaning they're leaving the door open to competitors to make even just a small investment into copy and content, and it will really, really pay off. It looks so different to their generic ChatGPT article. Businesses are throwing away money by wholly relying on generative AI tools. And so big businesses are really doubling down on that, knowing that if they've got the budget to pay for human content, it's a real competitive advantage for them. That brings me on to my second reason, the second thing that I've noticed, that businesses are spending so much more on blogs because they know that their customers are still looking for that information, and that they know Google is still delivering the answers and it's prioritizing well-written, well-informed, human-generated content. And if that's the case, then businesses want to be the top of the search results, even when Google pivot to a search generative experience. My biggest clients are using this time right now of uncertainty. They're using that to experiment, to find out what works, and then to develop a new strategy that they can stick to. And finally, clever businesses know that they can really differentiate themselves by delivering quality output across platforms. They're ready to invest in unique content strategies, but that include videos, like personal branding, in-person events, things like on LinkedIn. Sure, like AI is changing the way we interact with content, but it doesn't change the basic need of humans to create content that is engaged with. Like, people are still looking for these things. People are still spending more time than ever in front of a screen. So the stakes are getting higher. Okay, so after that, perhaps you're thinking, like, as a small business, how can I make the most of a blog and really create a future-proof content strategy? I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can do this, or 3 standout things that I believe are critical for every small business to implement. Then I'm going to go into each one of them in turn, what it is, how you can pull that out in practice, and what that looks like in a great blog. So first, we've got research that forms the foundation of your strategy. Then we've got to create quality content. And finally, it's all about delivering content in experimental formatting. And I'm going to explain each one of those in turn. Let's start right at the beginning and take a look at research. So what do I mean by that? Nowadays, it means a little bit more than just delivering a great keyword strategy. In the past, you could have just got away with like writing a blog about a topic that people were Googling and then just writing a lot and just putting loads of keywords in there. But now the research that you need to do is so much more complex. And the best content strategies start right from the beginning and think about the entirety of your sales funnel. SEO should take a bit of a backseat for the modern content strategy, in my opinion. Instead, I want you to think about your customer journey and map each piece of your content onto a sales funnel, and then consider how each piece of content plays its own role in channeling your customers further along your funnel. Do some keyword research. Like, I'm not saying don't do that. Definitely do some keyword research, but listen closely to your audience for the kind of content that they're looking for and where they're already finding it. So recently I worked on a marketing report as an example of this, and it looked at a lot of the data that came in from CMOs in enterprise level organizations. We sent them a survey, they sent it back. The results were really surprising to me because I found that a lot of the CMOs that we interviewed and that we spoke to, they recognized that people loved short form video. They recognized TikTok, they loved Instagram, but none of them were investing in creating short form video content. When we asked them why, they couldn't really give us an answer. And that's a classic example of a business doing research, knowing the right answers, but not like coming to the right conclusion, I guess. If I was in charge of an e-commerce brand's content strategy, for example, I'd take a look at where people are buying right now and where they expect to encounter my content. And at the moment, that's on TikTok and it's on Reels. It's on social media. Then I'd build my blog strategy around that. So I'm talking like BuzzFeed, like listicles, of your best performing Reels and TikToks with a little bit of written content around them, but then linked to TikTok Shop or to drive traffic to those short form Reels. This is a great example of an opportunity that people can identify in the research phase. So we're finding out what customers want and where they already interact with us and what trends are showing and what trends are showing they're likely to interact with. Then we're going to push the kind of content that they prefer, and we're going to deliver it across multiple platforms on a blog and an Instagram and TikTok and our website. To push that even further, I then repurpose all of those Reels across YouTube Shorts. I'd repost them over and over, building out my blog as an SEO and an SGE optimized listicle bank with fun headlines, those clickbaity headlines that get clicks from the SERPs and beat the no-click search results. Okay, so once I've got my strategy in place, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is focusing on delivering quality content. That would mean absolutely no AI in my blog strategy. Instead, I'd spend a bit of time coming up with a really solid tone of voice, and then I'd hone it into a unique approach that I'd take. So let's go back to ecom strategy as an example, right? If I were writing for a unique ecom brand, I'd really consider my target audience and how they speak online. I work with a copywriting expert and I'd come up with some guidelines of how our copy should be, both in written form and in our video content. So we have a unified voice across all of the kinds of channels we're going to use. Then I'd dial in my tone of voice to that specific audience, and I'd use very precise language over anything else. So imagine my ecom brand is going to sell to millennials. I chose this because I'm a millennial, right? So I would double down on that nostalgic, BuzzFeed listicle feel. I'd use a lot of those traditional emojis. I'd use language like LOL, MAO, cringe, all of that kind of stuff that's really nostalgic for millennials. In my actual copy itself, I'd make a load of cultural references. I'd write in small, like bite-sized chunks so that these elements can be repurposed across platforms. For my blog strategy, I'd hone in on that kind of like long form millennial content that I know that they enjoy. I'd look at some other sites that do a similar approach, but to be honest, I would take BuzzFeed as like probably the best example. What I would be absolutely avoiding would be using generative AI to write this copy. I've been moving away from that tone of voice that's really bland, corporate, boring. I think for me, what I look for and what represents really quality content is unique content that's gripping and engaging, that meets your customers where they already are hanging out and that builds a relationship with them. In this new age of content, I would much rather invest heavily on 2 or 3 pieces of outstanding content. And then I would push that over the next 3 to 6 months. I'd much rather do that over a plan that includes like 10 blog pieces a month, for example. Okay, and that brings me to my final third point of experimental formatting. I kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I think one of the things that is critical in this like future-proof content strategy is being experimental with the formatting of your blog. So what does this mean? Well, a generic blog post just isn't going to cut it anymore, right? I want to see completely new ways of conveying information. So in my ecom brand example, something like a listicle that features different kinds of UGC content would be great. But equally, I'd like to get experimental with long-form YouTube videos, a little bit like what I'm doing right now. I'd start to experiment with what a long-form piece of video content looks like. Maybe I would like chop that up into YouTube Shorts. Maybe I'd like post it across TikTok. Maybe I'd even use like cliffhangers to tell a story, you know. I'd start to think a little bit about my blog as a click-through presentation. Or I'd create something that was an interactive storytelling experience. How cool would that be? Like a retro choose your ending game. Something like that would be really cool to find the perfect product that's you. I'd certainly offer multiple ways for people to engage and listen to my blog content. I'd have it available as like a written blog, but also as multiple videos. I'd also have it as maybe an audio recording. This would all be on like one blog page, but many different ways for people to interact with that. Similarly, like interesting features like FAQs, if I had them, I would chop them up and I'd have them as like drop down content tabs. And this way it would be like tagging things, tracking the clicks and seeing what people engage with. Ultimately, what I'm looking for is something new. I'm looking to create something novel, but I'm also looking for ways that people engage with my content. And if I blasted this out and started channeling traffic to that, I'd see where people are coming to my pages and then I'd hone in on that approach. My conclusion is this: don't believe the hype. A blog is not dead and its content is becoming more important than ever. Things are changing for sure, but that's bringing a whole new load of opportunities for businesses like yours to engage with. If you've enjoyed this video and if you've learned something new, make sure that you like, subscribe and leave a comment below. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.